All right, we are back with video number 2. We started off today talking about the skeletal system. We're going to move on into the muscular system now. Now, muscles are, it's pretty obvious they help us move. They work together with the bones, they help us move. And the movement inside of the body, whether that's the movement of food through our system, that's the movement of blood through our cardiovascular system, the movement of our bones, all of those movements are controlled by muscles. Our breathing is controlled by muscles. The lungs are not muscles. There is a muscle under the lungs that help us breathe. It moves up and down. It pushes air in and out of our lungs. And again, many of these muscles are going to work together, and they're going to pull and tug on bones to help us move around. And those are things that are very, very important. Muscles do some other things as well. We've talked about this, I think, in all the classes. We said when we get cold that we shiver, and that's one of the functions of the muscular system. Shivering is our body's response to being too cold, and muscles, when they move like that, they generate heat. That's why when you're running around like crazy at recess and you come inside, you're hot. It's because your muscles are generating heat as you're moving around, even when it's cooler outside like these last few mornings have been. Muscles work together in conjunction with our skeletal system to help keep us upright and have upright posture. Like I said, the heart helps move blood through our bodies, and even the digestion of our food. We talked about how that food is moved from our mouth through our esophagus to our stomach, through the intestines, through a process called peristalsis in some of those organs. And that's, again, it's going to be smooth muscle that we'll talk about as well and as we get into the muscular system. So again, one thing I need you to kind of think about, and this is kind of important, is you're going to look really weird if you're doing this as you're sitting in the room listening to me. But just think about the fact that you are able to raise your hand. You can stand up. You can walk around. Do not do this in the middle of class, please. But because you are able to stand up and move around, you actually have control over that. And those are called, this is important, this should be obviously in your notes, but this is voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles. These are the muscles that you can control. Okay? Running, walking, riding a bike, waving your arms, eating. Those are muscles that you can control. When you're outside playing soccer, you control how hard or how softly you pass the ball to someone else, or when it's time for a goal, how much force you can put into it. These are called voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles are ones that you are able to have some sort of control over. Now, obviously, if there are muscles that we can control, there are things that we don't control and some things that we don't think about controlling. And so while I've been talking, and hopefully you've been using muscles to press pause and using muscles to move your hand and arm around to take notes, all the while you were doing that, you were breathing, you were blinking, now you're thinking about it, and your heart was beating, and you did not have to control any of that. Can I control the breathing? Yes, there's reasons behind that. Can I control blinking? Again, there are reasons why your body allows you to kind of control that. But your heart is a little bit different. Those are typically going to be muscles that you don't control. These are called involuntary muscles. You don't control what this muscle does. It does its job without you having to think about it. Your brain is sending signals without you really realizing it, and those things are happening on a timely basis because it's very important that we are respirating, that we are breathing. It's very important that our heart is moving blood. It's very important that we are keeping our eyes well lubricated by blinking. All of those things are very, very important. Again, your heart obviously is one of those super important involuntary muscles. Hopefully, like most of us have eaten something for breakfast, or maybe we ate something for lunch. The food that's moving through after you have chewed it and swallowed, from that point on, you really don't have any control over that until it reaches its final point and it's on its way back out. Those are, again, all of that is involuntary muscles. It's important to have that. You know, a lot of us we have a hard enough time just paying attention in class and there's nothing else going on. If you had to think about breathing and blinking and your heart beating and digesting food and keeping your body at the correct temperature, you would not be able to focus. You wouldn't be able to survive because you couldn't keep your mind on that 24/7. I mean, as soon as you take a nap, you would stop thinking about breathing and your heart beating and you would be gone. So, I mean, your body has to have this function of having these involuntary muscles. It's extremely, extremely important. Obviously, we can't watch this. We'll watch it when I get back to class. All right. Here's some things that we need to know. We're going to put these into our notes. So when I flip over to the notes, hopefully you see this guy. I think on the left side of the page, I have the full page version of it. And you're going to see this here. Now, I think this is pretty obvious. But, you know, if you don't have this in here, what are the main organs? Well, we're going to go with the muscles. Okay, the muscles are the main organs. What are some examples of muscles? Now, this could be an unbelievably extensive list. I'm going to go with the heart. Why? Well, it's a muscle that moves blood throughout our body. I think that one is going to be extremely important. I'm going to go with the diaphragm. This is a muscle that sits just under your lungs. We'll take a look at that later on once we get to and be able to be in class together and use some of the apps that we have. We'll be able to see that as it flexes and relaxes, helping move air in and out of our body. So obviously the diaphragm is an extremely important muscle as well. As we're going through, if we catch muscles that we think are very important, we can put them back up here in the examples of muscles. I'm going to bounce back over to here, though, because first off, we're going to talk about skeletal muscles. Now we go back to we talk about the skeletal system. We talked about the skeletal system does many things, and one of the things is the skeletal system allows us to move. It cannot do that on its own, and the muscles can't do that on their own either. They have to work together. So when you hear the word skeletal muscles, it should tell you that these are the muscles that help us move around. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm even going to keep this part in my notes that these are voluntary. Now, at this point in your booklet, I want you to take this and I want you to put this as best as you can into your own words. Okay, I wrote this down. These are my notes. Now I want to see your notes. I'm still going to use this as my exemplar for here, but again, we don't all need to copy the same thing down the entire time. That would be kind of pointless. So again, that's not what I wanted. Go back to here. There we go. There we go. And that's like pasting it in completely different colors last time. All right, skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are the muscles that help us move. I'm actually going to get rid of this part right here because I don't want to see that here. I am going to keep this part about them being voluntary because knowing the difference between voluntary and involuntary muscles is going to be extremely, extremely important. I go back and I look. Now, we're obviously going to dig way deeper into the smooth muscles once I can get into class and we can use some of our apps and the videos and stuff. But smooth muscles are very special muscles. We talk about those specialized cells with unicellular and multicellular, having specialized cells. These are very specialized cells. They're going to be involuntary muscles that control movements throughout the body. For example, like the stomach and the intestines. So this is what I'm going to put next in my notes. I pop back over to here, boom, and change the color. And I can already tell I'm going to run out of space if I don't change this down. I might have to go a little bit lower than that, to be honest with you. Let's go to 16. Boom, there we go. Now, I have skeletal muscles that are obviously attached to the skeleton. They help me move. I have smooth muscles. This is one that we're probably going to have to study. These are special muscles that do not connect the bones. Otherwise, they'd be called skeletal. And they help control organs like the stomach and intestines to help move food through our body. These are involuntary muscles. Okay, I'm bouncing back. I see cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles. I think as we start to get into the cardiovascular system, you're going to start to realize that cardiac means having to do with the heart. Cardiac muscles are the heart muscles, and I probably could stop there, because I think you know what heart muscles do. They move blood through our body. Now, can I control that, or is that involuntary? Well, I don't want to have to think about my heart pumping on a 24/7 basis. Cardiac muscles are heart muscles. They are involuntary and they move blood through our body. Again, I want you to put this one in your words. We don't need to read Mr. Bullins' words. We see his words enough. You guys have far more important words anyway. Okay. Cardiac muscles are heart muscles. Okay. It moves blood through our body involuntarily. I'm glad about that involuntarily part. Okay. Now, muscles are the main organs in the muscular system. So we have the heart, we have the diaphragm. So I can come back up here and think about smooth muscles. And then maybe talk about how that's involved in digestion. Okay. Now, have I covered the types of muscles and their functions? Yes, I have. Do I have the main organs? Yes, I do. Have I written down examples of it? I absolutely have. Now, what is the function of the muscular system? So, like, what is the muscular system there to do? So, as we've said, when we talk about what does it mean when I say the function, like, what does the muscular system do? Well, let's go back to the notes that we were taking and let's think about it. Well, the first thing is they are there for movement, right? They are there for movement. They help our body, they pair up with the skeletal system, and they help us to move. I think that is very important. Now, another thing that they do is they support our body. And so we talked about how it gives us our posture. It allows us to stand upright. Okay, again, that's kind of in conjunction with our skeletal system. So again, that last page, and even on our homework, how does the skeletal system and muscular system work together? I think we've started to cover that pretty well at this point. Another thing that the muscular system does is it circulates, spell it right, Mr. Bullins, circulates blood. What does that mean? It moves blood through the body. Now, some of this, a majority of this is going to be with the heart pumping. We can get into how some of the blood vessels can constrict and expand to help move blood if we need to. And again, that would be by muscles on the outside of those veins and arteries and capillaries as well, helping to move to expand and contract those as well. That's if we have time and if we need to get into that. Now, another function of the muscular system is to generate heat. Again, my goodness gracious, it must be the late evening. I don't know what it is. I'm just losing all my spelling functionalities. Again, they are there to help generate heat. It's extremely important that the muscular system is doing that. It actually even controls, there's like teeny tiny little muscles that help control the pores on our body that kind of open those pores when we are hot and allow our body to sweat, because sweat cools our body off. And those same muscles, like when you get cold and you get those quote unquote goosebumps, that's because those tiny little pores are squeezing together about as tightly as possible. And that's to make sure that we are not sweating and therefore cooling ourselves off. It's kind of help. It's a way to help us stay warm in those colder times. Finally, as I'm running close to time here, it doesn't offer as much, but it does offer some protection to organs as well. The muscles do. You got to think about like in your abdomen, like your ribs aren't there to protect like your intestines, but there is a layer of muscle over top of that does offer some protection as well. So we finished 2 pages of our project. I know this is going to take you a little longer than it did me because you keep having to pause and write, but that's okay. Again, here we are into the second one. Make sure you smash that like button and you subscribe.